For years, trousers were seen as a functional purchase with little room for innovation. But evolving lifestyles, changing work cultures, and a growing focus on comfort have reshaped how men dress today. In this episode, Udit Toshniwal shares the journey of building the Pant Project and creating a modern menswear brand around fit, fabric, and customization on building actually with Abhishansa. Hi Udit, glad to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to our catch up.
Yes, it was lovely having a pre chat. It gave me a bit of nuance of your business. And as I mentioned then also, and that I have been following the journey of the Pant Project. My husband uses the product. He's a loyalist for this. I have seen him buying bottle green pant, which he has never ever bought for his banking career, right? Other than that, for the longest time, menswear in India felt largely functional, like especially categories like formal wear, trousers are mostly but most where consumers were choosing between basic fits, local tailoring, or they were legacy brands with limited styles. At the same time, men today seem to care more about comfort, fit, fabric, versatility in for that matter, like they can buy a product and they can wear it multiple times and personal style than they did a decade ago. So today I want to understand before the journey how that shift is changing the business of menswear itself and what it takes to build a modern brand for a modern brand in a category like this where most people treat it as just a functional wear, and if you have any numbers to support to that.
For sure. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to share the journey of Pant Project through this conversation and at the same time as to how menswear in India has become a growing segment in the apparel industry as well as in D2C, disrupting the legacy businesses. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is your question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So at the Pant Project, and actually before our journey of Pant Project, we call ourselves Answer Fashion Private Limited because we wanted to ask ourselves how come there hadn't been a brand from India for the world. You had Zara that was fast fashion, you had Uniqlo that was functional fashion, but you didn't have that perfect sweet spot for the Indian body type. And that's really where we started, is saying that today in apparel, it's a very competitive industry. And to succeed, you have to be able to solve for two really important things, which is inventory turns. It is a cash flow business and returns and exchanges. And that answers your question of product market fit. So while we were going after a category that was a deep loyalist category, as your husband had been a loyalist of the Pant Project, it was hard to shift the consumer from a distribution first business, which was what the legacy businesses were. Today, your Raymonds, your Aditya Birla groups, all of them had multiple doors to open and access the customer. And often it wasn't even the man who was going and shopping himself. It was often on a weekend, he was going to a mall and then his wife said, you must buy something new. You haven't shopped something for yourself. While she was doing the shopping, she was refreshing his wardrobe. And after COVID, which is when we launched, we saw that the man started taking interest in his own apparel and his own wear, and he wanted comfort. Comfort was the most important thing. It was no longer just aesthetics and saying I'm wearing formal to look a certain way in banking or in a professional industry. And it wasn't just about price. Today, the customer was willing to pay a little bit more to have clothing that was able to last long, and he saw value for money in. And at the same time, he was able to wear it multiple times and drive comfort for. So these were some of the things that we were solving for from an industry and from shifting. And the ability for us to be able to do this was going direct to consumer. And this happened by being a digitally first brand. So by being a digitally enabled brand, as we have been able to communicate through Meta and Google and through our communication with the customer directly through our innovative marketing and social media, we were able to build a community and talk to our consumer about his problems and then solve those problems through product.
So I want to understand the shift. Basically, you said you guys launched during COVID. I'm pretty sure you must have thought, you must have been working like before the COVID hit actually. And how the comfort change? How the customers wanted different thing? How do you know that they need a comfort first product now? What was the shift during COVID?
Yeah. So I think that like in COVID, everyone was at home, and then we too were going to initially launch the business first as a retail business, which was going to be in custom wear and custom made. And that pivot from custom made to ready to wear was also important, but it was important for us to get the data on fit. So, solving for comfort, we started seeing a lot of problems. Today, I studied design internationally and I've come back to India. And I think that design is not just about aesthetics, but design is truly solving a problem. And that is the biggest shift that we've seen in the consumer. The consumer was able to voice his problem. The problem was in the crotch. The problem was in the stiff fabric. The problem was in the durability. And so he was saying, the fabric is fading. Now, what does that mean? That means that he wants a product that doesn't fade. That was our insight and that was our differentiation on the product itself. And there we were able to then launch a no fade ink lock black jean because we were
Got
listening to
it.
the consumer. So that B2C function is one of the most important shifts itself through COVID. And when people were spending time on digital media, they were also commenting and listening to the voice of the customer rather than it just being the voice of the wholesaler or the voice of the distributor who was buying across the country. The buyer's opinion shifted and it became a two-way relationship between the consumer and the brand. And this was one of the biggest shifts from COVID. Then going forward to ask that question on comfort. Comfort also changed in post COVID, people started traveling a lot, right? And so
Right.
travel became a macro trend. And then people would go from for business meetings from Bombay to Bangalore. And then there was that shift from being just a Zoom call towards saying is that, hey, we're going for coffee and other meetings. And there were these social interactions that were not just so labeled and boxed as work for work and weekend for weekend. Now people wanted multiple wares and their lifestyles had changed. They would go to the gym, then from the gym, they would go maybe for a coffee catch up and then from there to office, and then they would be spending a lot more time in their car and traveling and commuting. And so commute or travel became an interesting insight. So we created a travel pant and we launched a pant even from our category called Power Stretch, which is taking a knit fabric because typically your sweatpants or your t-shirts are your most comfortable piece in your wardrobe. And how could we make that feel a lot more formal or a lot more versatile? So we created a category called Power Stretch Pants. And this sort of cross pollination is where we were successful in product development to listen to the voice of the customer saying they wanted comfort through fit, fabric, and functionality.
So I want to dive more about fabric a bit later. But before that, I want to understand women fashion saw constant innovation throughout the journey, decades we have seen, like different silhouettes, categories, trends, fabrics, even shopping experiences for that matter. But menswear especially have been, like especially if you see formal wear and trousers, they stayed relatively stagnant for years. Why do you think the category evolved so slowly despite there was a major consumer base? Like we see smart casuals industries mentioning you can wear jeans to the office now, but our parents used to wear formal wear for office means formal wear. So now, how when there was a stronger customer base, how did this category evolve so slowly?
Very interesting question. So I'll take it in two parts. I'll take it in one part, which is talking about women's fashion and why there's so much variety in women's fashion. And the second part of the question is that, like, now that we see menswear evolve, what has been the evolution of menswear and how have we arrived at versatile clothing and functional clothing for men? In terms of women's wear, I would say that breadth women, as by nature, are always trying something new. They're always inquisitive, but inherently, then that also leads them not to be loyal to one particular brand. They're always
Hmm.
seeking fashion, freshness, and what's next. But for a
Right.
business, that's very challenging because it's
Hmm.
predictive analysis and you land up with a risk of getting it right or wrong. It's a bit like options trading where you have to give them a lot of choices and they may like it and they may not like it.
Hmm.
Whereas men, by nature, have been very simple creatures and they've worn that same black pant and they've worn that same blue jean for decades to come. That
Hmm.
inherently is also the good part and the bad part in them being loyal to their heritage brand. And us as a new age brand, acquiring that customer becomes harder.
Hmm.
Now, when a new age workforce, be it late Gen Z or young millennials, are entering the workforce post COVID, they had that insight which was saying is that we wanted to get better use of our money. And at the same time, they felt different needs, right? The needs of the times change, where the kind of businesses and the kind of entrepreneurs and the kind of professions that they were joining were a lot different. Today, social media, influencing, content creation, marketing became much more acceptable professions where you had a larger base of people entering that career and workforce as well, compared to just traditional jobs like accounts or finance. And at
Right.
the same time, India evolved as well, wherein the growing middle class as well had a huge consumer base. So today as well, the way we see our trends go is very interesting. The customer base that we have at Pan Project is equally split between metros and non-metros, tier one and tier two. And we see growing India be a huge market for us because they are starved for good brands that are giving high quality. And they are in fact
Hmm.
all the more loyal. Initially, it would have just been your Western brand or your heritage brand that you would wear. But today, you can
Hmm.
see new age cities grow thanks to tech, thanks to innovation, and thanks to these other cities and infrastructure as well through digital media having huge opportunities across the country. So, to conclude, I would
Hmm.
say that men have been shaped by legacy brands for the last few decades. And in the last
Right.
5 years, we've seen the year on year growth of menswear thanks to digital media and their ability to be influenced through
Hmm.
technology. And technology over here has been one of the best factors to accelerate this growth in men,
Hmm.
saying that we can have more variety out of our wear as well.
So, but why historically men compromise so much on their fit and comfort? Like, what must be the thought about it? Like, there was lack of option, they were not aware, or there were not many option. Was it? What was the reason?
Sure. So I would say that historically, the consumer base in India was used to traditional formal clothing, and they would go to their tailor and their local tailor. And a lot of that arts and crafts as well of the tailor changed. And therefore, when we launched the Pan project as well, we considered ourselves to be the e-tailor and make that journey more consistent as well as more convenient. So these were two things that we said were problem areas that we wanted to solve for. Earlier, it was that the master G would come to you and you would get your suit fitted. And then you would get the perfect heritage and you would be buying premium fabrics. Historically in India, we had over the counter fabrics, and you would go to
Hmm.
that tailor and get your material stitched. That's how Raymond, as a business, Reed and Taylor, all of these businesses grew when you would buy fabric and then get your safari suit or your suit stitch. I remember for my Dadaji and my Nanaji time, they would always wear that particular suit or then
Yeah.
get their
Yes.
Nehru jacket made. Now, with
Same.
that,
Same.
it
Yeah.
became a
I remember.
trouser and shirt, and then it became a shirt trouser, right? Like saying कि pant suit पहनेंगे, but it meant to say कि मैं pant and shirt पहनूंगा. And on Diwali or on a certain occasion, or maybe at their wedding, they would get three or four. Like a woman would be gifted 5 saris, and a man would be gifted certain suits, and then he'd wear that all through his
Hmm.
like career. Now
Okay.
that culture changed, right? And then people started
Hmm.
to go to retail. And this is when Raymond said that you can be the complete man. That motto of
Hmm.
the complete man of getting all your workwear was no longer relevant to the millennial audience because he didn't have any insecurity in him saying that he's not complete. He wanted to be the man who made his own choices and he could buy from multiple brands and he was expressing himself. And so
Mhm.
the way he chose his product was very different, the consumer habits, wherein he wanted to prioritize flexibility, stretch, versatility, and not just have that. He didn't have time to make that decision anymore. Everything era, right? Like he wanted quick
Hmm.
delivery. In fact, that was one of the biggest challenges that we tried to solve for. Was in custom made, it takes typically 7 to 15 days to make something from a singular pant. And in the age of quick commerce that we are in today, where you want everything in 30 minutes to 2 days at max, how do you solve for that change in the consumer's mind?
Hmm. Got it. So, why Pant Project? There, why not? Like, why restricting yourself to the Pant Project? Why didn't you pick with, even if you wanted to solve for men? Why didn't you pick T-shirts, shirts, or why didn't you keep it open that somewhere after the Pant Project when you're focusing on the pants, and then later you might open up for shirts or T-shirts or men categories as well?
For sure. I think that's a wonderful question on why we called ourselves the Pant Project. And when you see the logo as well, we wanted to be the experts. So when you see project, you see a dot over here, and we wanted to be the pros or the
Hmm.
experts in our category. And the brackets in our logo come from redefining the word pant as well as redefining the category of bottom wear. So it comes from the dictionary. When you see something in the dictionary, it's a definition, and therefore we're redefining bottom wear through better fit fabric and functionality. And we
Hmm.
chose pants because it was an overseen category. Typically, people think that they wear 3 to 4 different top wear for one bottom wear. Now, you're not loyal to your top wear. You think that top wear is a logo first category. You want to have Blackberry, Louis Philippe. You want to have
Hmm.
Tommy Hilfiger. You want to have Ralph Lauren. You want to have Lacoste. You want to have the logo that signifies the upper crest or your status or your positioning. But for bottom wear, it's a comfort first functional category. It doesn't matter
Hmm.
which logo you're wearing, as long as every day you're going to pick that pant. And that's similar to innerwear or underwear, where you can build a very deep, loyal category out of that. And this is something that we've seen, that those businesses that have not been fashion led, but have been actually problem solving and category disrupting and owning a category, have performed in the long run much better because they have a
Hmm.
long customer retention lifetime. And that really works out. So, this is why we chose the Pant project. And we feel that pants was a wide enough category. I mean, in India, it's over an 8 billion TAM on apparel, and at least 35% of that is bottom wear. So therefore, in bottom wear, we felt like even if we could be over 1,000 crores to 2,000 crores in just bottom wear, that was a good
Hmm.
business. And then we can consider maybe either expanding the brand to TPP or launching other brands or other categories out there. But we wanted to prove first that in a decade, we can be the experts in a particular category.
So tell me about your story with all the conversation we have till now. I feel that you guys were, before starting, you were very sure that you're going to solve this problem. You wanted to, like, you had this problem in mind, but you were very sure that you're going to be pro in this, as it says. What gave you that confidence? And did you, when you started, did people immediately understand that proposition, or did you have to convince consumers that pants themselves were worth paying attention to? Was India ready for a trouser first brand?
Yes, and this is why we called ourselves the Pan Project. So we didn't have to explain. There are many brands that say they're lifestyle brand, and then they have to explain what they do. If we've called ourselves the Pan Project, we must be the experts, or we must be doing at least pants right. And this was one of our key mottos. When we had studied, so the family business has been 50 years in textiles, from yarn, fabric, and garment. And my brother
Hmm.
Dhruv and I decided to step out of the family business to launch the Pant project after much research. So we had seen businesses come and go, and these businesses in fashion had sailed for either inventory or for returns and exchanges. And so
Hmm.
inventory was, if you were fast fashion, you were always predicting and you were too design centric. It was about
Hmm.
print, or it was about having the latest fashion or cut. And for that, you had to have a lot of trend based analysis, which weren't
Hmm.
about compounding effects. So today, once I found the best pant, I know that like Levi's, the best 501 jeans, I can last that for, they've been 150 years, at least for 10 to 15 years. I can have that same black pant that people can go to. And in fact, at fast fashion brands, once you found your brand and you go back there, they often don't have that same silhouette. And that as a man is very frustrating because you found
Hmm.
what you liked after a long time and you want to keep
Hmm.
going back to buy that. So we actually worked with that problem statement, which was saying is that today there isn't a go-to brand for bottom wear. There are many brands that are competing for top wear or lifestyle. And if that return of investment can happen in a compounded way, then we know we can build a strong top of mind wardrobe share for the consumer. And
Hmm.
this has been proven. It took us the first 3 to 4 years when we were custom made to get the
Hmm.
fit right. And here
Hmm.
we were first 25% like uh, alterations, exchanges, return. And now we're only down to 6 to 7%, which is a huge. And for this industry of apparel, everyone tries and buys, but especially being digitally first. And in fact, when you go to our Pan Project stores, which was another unlock that happened last year, we asked ourselves, would a consumer go to a store just to buy pants? Typically, as a man, you would think that he wants to buy his pant, his shirt, all of his things. And we saw that people were willing to go just to buy pants and spend 25 to 30 minutes and then buy their pant and then go on and know that for 1 to 2 years they had bought their product and they were happy with it.
Hmm.
So that was again another insight to saying that like being a category first. It's called kind of like Lenskart, right? Like Lenskart just chose eyewear and then they became the leader in eyewear. So we felt like we could be the leader in bottom wear for men.
Got it. So what was the journey like? क्या एकदम से एक दिन आइडिया आया कि now we have to do the pan project, or there was a lot of research thought behind it, years spent into it?
I think that like doing is the best like thing. And we had a couple of ideas before we finally were able to find success in the Pant project. And this is why going back, the business is called Answer Fashion because we were trying to find that answer. Initially, we were trying to do like a marketplace, which was slow fashion and more about sustainability. But I think at that
Hmm.
point, India was too early for that. And at the same time,
Hmm.
sustainability is something that the consumer is willing to pay for later. So in fact, even at Pan Project, all of our fibers are recycled polyesters and more sustainable, but it's something that they're not willing to pay for upfront. That's something, if it's an additional benefit, it could be the fifth
Hmm.
reason, but it's not the main reason. And then we were going to do something in wedding wear at a better price point. But we realized in wedding wear at a better price point for men, it's a bit of, we didn't have a specialty moat on it. It was also too design centric. And
Hmm.
Manyavar and a few other players had already found success in it. So you're always going to compete with them. And so it made sense with our history in men's tailoring for us to be able to find a moat and a success on our supply chain from there.
Okay. And you guys started in COVID 2020. Okay.
And October 2020 is when we launched our website. And then from
Hmm.
there, we started off with custom made. And then we started
Hmm.
our first store in 2024.
So I want to understand, you guys started with customization, and even if I now see the website, there are custom wear options for the pants. I think formal pants for that matter. Can you explain me how was the process like, the idea of focusing on customization at that point, and are you guys going ahead with the customization, or you think ready to wear has more scope right now? Because customization obviously comes with its own challenges, but customization obviously gave you a lot more many customers, because I remembered when we ordered like pants, we would know that what kind of, what is the exact measurements that we had to go with, and there was a small little detail with like a you know you can write
I mean,
get your initials written on that. So I want to understand the thought behind focusing on customization at that moment, and how are you placed today?
sure. So the reason we launched as custom made is because we wanted to get the fit data and to make sure that we set up our processes. So today, on our quality, on our inspection, on each of those things, then you can scale it up, right? Today, when you're doing a custom made pant and similar things that you were talking about, like the monogramming, or getting the length, right? Like there are different lengths in India. There is different hip to waist ratios
Hmm.
in between sizing. And all of these taught us about how to get it right. While we're growing consistently in ready to wear and custom made has remained the same, those customers who were loyal to us in the initials have continued to stay. And we see custom made being something that at a store level, as we open more retail,
Hmm.
customers who are willing to pay the premium and want a more experiential journey on their product, uh,
Hmm.
such as in linen or in wool or in luxury fabrics, they're willing to pay for custom made. But there's a big cohort of people who have an entry level price point and they want to be able to access the brand at, say, 1900, 2000 rupees. And
Hmm.
been able to widen, get a much wider new customer acquisition. And then once they trust you, they're able to go up in their journey of career as well.
So you guys are not pivoting as such, but you're balancing both the things and
Yeah.
offering
So
as a
the
feature.
way we look at it is that we have three primary channels: D2C, which is our own website and digital,
Hmm.
marketplaces such as Amazon and Myntra, and then
Hmm.
retail offline, right? And we see retail offline growing exponentially. We see D2C being that place where the customer gets to experience the brand. And we
Hmm.
see marketplace being a place where there's a lot of discovery to be found. And therefore, those customers who are used to shopping on marketplaces at an entry level price point are able to enter and try the brand out. And we
Hmm.
see each three of these being able to funnel into an omni channel. And eventually the
Hmm.
customer comes back to your website or to your stores for a repeat order.
Got it. Because you have experience in customization, I want to understand customization. Can customization actually scale for not just fashion, not just your brand, but as a fashion as a category? You know, because it sounds great in theory, but operationally it sounds a little difficult because now you're balancing individuality, manufacturing, timelines, alteration, consistency, as you mentioned, all of these things simultaneously. So what does the backend actually look like, and do you think it can work?
I think there is an inherent challenge towards scaling customization. One needs to know that when you're building a custom business, it is a premium audience. And at the same time, variability is the antithesis of predictability, right? And so, therefore, like in customization, you need to always
Hmm.
ask yourself, what is that insight or that data that can then eventually graduate from the bell curve? Because
Hmm.
why is someone coming to you to customize? Are they not a standard body type? Are they looking for a premium fabric? Are they looking for something they couldn't otherwise find? And then the
Hmm.
question in ready to wear is that how fast and how far can you scale
Hmm.
it? So they're two separate problems that you're solving for. Ready to wear,
Hmm.
the challenge is about margins, costing, and scale. And that is a different operational executional capability. And in custom made, it's like, can you get enough insights? Are you differentiating? And you're asking yourself a different set of questions.
Hmm.
So the audiences are actually different. And if you can serve both audiences, that's the best. The audience in custom made is also niche. Someone who's
Hmm.
willing to be patient and give you that chance and had enough
Hmm.
awareness. Because the truth is that it's a very evolved customer who comes for custom made, and there's a very simple customer who comes for ready to wear. The problems that you're solving for are different.
So women pants are discreetly mentioned somewhere in the website. I want to understand, are you guys focusing on women wear as well, or is it not your current focus? And you do cater to women pants as well, but not so much. So what is the thought behind it?
So there are two thoughts behind this. One of them is that the reason we have women's wear on our website is because in custom made is because there is a working population of women who really are looking for the best bottom wear for their careers. And we feel like we were able to do that through the similar to same fabrics and offer that customization as an insight. And the wives and partners of our male customer were coming to us. So we weren't spending that much additional marketing dollars on attracting them. There was already that
Mhm.
problem statement. And this is why we do it, because we were able to do it, and they're very loyal and they come to us for that limited SKU. And the reason that
Hmm.
we haven't scaled it is
Hmm.
because there are a lot of brands out there doing women's wear, and women's bottom wear is skirts, this, that. And if you listen to everything, then you would dilute and you'll end up having too much inventory.
Got it.
Also, there are other brands out there that then you want to say you want to do the full look, and then they ask you for everything, and you land up not standing for something. And we feel like
Hmm.
women's can eventually be a whole brand in itself. Also,
Hmm.
women are prefer freshness, and that inherently is the antithesis of our business model, which is core and hero products. So the products that we have for women are core and hero products, which we
Hmm.
fit to their women's size, uh,
Hmm.
and the products that we stay away from is what everyone else is generically doing.
Sounds good, but आपके पास ऐसे women customers नहीं आते होंगे कि you have this for men, why don't you have this for women? So, talking about the fabric, because you guys you have a lot of understanding because of the legacy manufacturing business about fabrics. What goes behind creating fabrics for modern silhouettes? In many fashion categories, branding drives the purchase, but in trousers and fabric directly, affects, be it comfort, repeat wear, movement, retention, all those things, because you feel comfortable in a pant. People say I can wear this daily, I can wear it like I can feel that I'm not wearing anything. It's that comfortable. I feel that in this heat I can sustain in this fabric. So how central is fabric innovation to the business? How did you guys crack that code?
That's a very good question. And the way we think of technology is actually through textile technology or fabric innovation. Uh, there are certain key products that we've launched based on consumer insights. For example, no fade or fading is something that's a common problem in fabric. And therefore, that happens because of the fabric being piece dyed or being dyed later on in the fabric journey. uh, Cotton is often like RFD or piece dye. Now we've used dope dyed yarns and we've used reactive dyes so that the yarn and that the dye technology is inherently in the fiber and the yarn itself. So when you weave the
Hmm.
fabric, it's not going to change. It's like having dark black hair, right? It's not just
Hmm.
dyed from the top, which after a few washes is going to change color.
Hmm.
So these sort of inherent understandings, or when you talk about the heat in Bombay, we know that
Hmm.
certain fabrics are more breathable, like having viscose or having
Hmm.
hollow fibers is more breathable. So therefore,
Hmm.
we would be able to keep the GSM of the fabric in such a way that you can still hold and maintain the trousers integrity and durability and the structure, but you can still get the breathability out of it. Or,
Hmm.
for example, using a knit fabric, but then for a structured bottom wear. These are the ways in which we've been able to use fabric to our advantage. And these insights have come both from our knowledge of the industry and the capex that's out there in machine engineering and using technology such as compact, such as nylon, such as the
Hmm.
twist of the fabric, such as the ability to transform the yarn or the dye technology, and then integrate that in with the consumer's insights itself and being able to listen to the consumer and respond to them. So
Hmm.
today, while Uniqlo may be known as sheet tech, and there are many people making a puffer jacket, they are still going to be the leaders of sheet tech. Similarly, we've launched IPs such as Malai, which is soft touch. So now nylon inherently is a softer synthetic fiber than polyester. And so we've been able to have a wrinkle free fabric called Malai, which feels soft to the skin. And then you have the sort of wrinkle free nature of nylon, which using these inherent properties to be able to make the best fabrics that go into the best garments. So the way we look at technology and textile innovation is down from the yarn, fiber, and fabric level to be able to create solutions for the consumer's problems.
So, do Indian consumers today genuinely understand fabric better, or their purchase decision is driven by just fit appearance or the price?
I think that comfort is something that they're driven by, and it's not just
Hmm.
the appearances. So, yes, they do know now the difference in fabric. They may not know the technical details, but
Mm-hmm.
once they touch it and once they feel
Hmm.
it and once they wear it for an extended period of time, they can definitely see which one is the better quality. And through a repeat funnel, you're able to see which ones they're able to come back for.
So, consumers often underestimate how difficult the consistency becomes when in apparel manufacturing.
Fashion, and that's a
Hmm.
really important thing, is that like if you want to be a long-term player and not just a brand today that lasts for a quick fad, right? You need to be able to
Hmm.
build consistent supply chain, and you need to be able
Hmm.
to build consistency and in your repeat order, and that is something that we really look for in our product.
So, what are the hardest operational realities that consumers actually never see?
Fit consistency when you're working with multiple suppliers, how a little bit can keep going over multiple months and become a, a variant in itself. So it's important to have a standard and to constantly
Hmm.
go back to that standard. That's
Hmm.
really important. The supply chain, as well, of saying is that today we ship across the country from the north to the south, and we often
Hmm.
have to have a delivery schedule as well, where we have certain suppliers in the south and certain suppliers in the north. So we're able to
Hmm.
deliver through speed, because speed is
Hmm.
very important.
Hmm.
And as a business scales up and grows, de-risking your business so that there is no dependency on any one supplier or on any one
Hmm.
product is
Hmm.
very important, because the way macroeconomics are working today, there could be a packaging trim that you're getting from another country that is then got a bar on it, or like a price rises in polyester and now you need to sell more cotton to maintain your margins. So I think
Got it.
having the right amount of variability, the right amount of diversity, and then being
Hmm.
able to use that diversity to be able to like leverage your brand is very important.
SKU complexity in trousers must be insane. Like you have different type of products because unlike many fashion categories, you're balancing different waist size, length size, different kind of fabrics, colors, and as you mentioned now, occasions as well. So operationally, how difficult does SKU management become?
So we're very conscious when we launch a product. We launch the minimum SKU, the minimum order quantity for it. I'm going to take this question again. So, in terms of launching the product, the way we look at our NPD cycle is that every year we launch 3 to 4 hero categories, and
Mhm.
we limit it at that with 6 to 8 products within it. And we order the MOQ, and then after we find product market fit, then we scale
Mhm.
up in that. Right now at Pan Project, we have about 250 SKUs across. While we have multiple sizes in it, size is probably the hardest one to plan for inventory. But with
Mhm.
AI and predictive tools, you can start to get better and better at stocking core sizes. And when it
Mhm.
comes to color, fortunately, black is sort of one of those colors that is evergreen. And that is something you always need to keep in stock. But
Mhm.
we at Pan Project have very few SKUs that have a long inventory cycle, meaning to say that only 2% of our entire goods are more than 180 days old. We try to have a very high sell through rate, and we don't
Mhm.
try to offer a liquidation channel. So we don't have that problem of liquidating stocks, which is one of
Got
the
it.
inherent challenges in fashion brands.
So, how much time does it take from the product ideation to product execution that it's on the market?
So it typically takes around 100 to 120 days to actually produce the goods once you've released the POs. And maybe it takes
Mm.
about 2 months before to sample it.
Mm.
And the idea may come from consumer insights anywhere from like 4 months to 2 months ahead of time when you're interacting with your consumer. So I would say between 4 months or so is a typical product cycle. And that's why we do 3 to 4 product cycles in a year.
Mhm. As you are ready to wear, there might be, and you are across different channel, there would be returns as well. So, in return in these categories can heavily impact margin. So, how do you think about balancing all these, like customer convenience, even fit confidence? I'm not sure if custom fit has return scope or not, but how do you take that in a fashion category? Because returns are a usual thing. People buy two pants, even from the pant project. Suppose they buy two products and one they return. How do you manage that?
So that's quite a nature of marketplaces, especially. And on marketplaces, we're about 20% returns and exchanges. On our own website, we're as low as 6% of returns and exchanges. And so on
Mhm.
average, it's about 10 to 12% of returns and exchanges, which
Mhm.
is actually far lower than the industry standard of around 25 to 30% plus in
Hmm.
terms of returns and exchanges. And this is because the reason for return is either you're trying to find your size, wherein then you order 2 pants and you return one because you found at least one pant fits you, or because you just wanted to touch and feel the fabric. And at our stores, and this is where stores become very important, because there you have less than 1% of returns and exchanges because you've already tried on and touched and felt the product.
Right, right.
So I would say that at Pan Project being a core hero product, it's not just an impulse purchase that you're making
Mhm.
or a product to just compare. You've gone out and you said, hey, I have a need for a pant, and therefore you're making it and then comparing it. So we have quite low returns and exchanges, and we're very conscious of solving for this.
So once men find their pants they genuinely love, they stick to it, and they often repeatedly buy variations of the same thing. So how much of the business today is retention driven versus acquisition driven? And what actually creates a long term loyalty in this category?
Good question. So I would say that we have about 45% of repeat customers at a cohort level, which is really good. That means uh, while we're growing very fast, every month on month, we have a strong repeat funnel, and we're
Hmm.
seeing our customers in 1 year spend north of 8,000 rupees to 10,000 rupees when they're repeating. That means you might buy one pant first, but then you're buying 4 to 5 pants when you come back. And that's quite surprising because you wouldn't think that a man needs to have like 3 to 4 pants in their wardrobe from the same brand. But here is where once they find either in formals, they might buy all the colors, or after
Hmm.
buying a formal, they may buy jeans and power stretch and other categories. And we're seeing both kinds of consumer behavior.
So, what creates this long term loyalty in this category?
I think it's just about convenience and comfort, fit, fabric,
Hmm.
and functionality. Once you found your fit, and if you can go from that same fit, often in many brands, you don't
Hmm.
get fit consistency. You like,
Hmm.
you have to try on multiple different pants to know which size you are, in which style, and which fit, etc., which is very painful. So over here at the
Hmm.
Pant Project, through custom made data, we've been able to say that we're going to offer fit consistency, and no matter the stretch percentage of the fabric, we've adjusted the fit so that once you're a true waist in our brand, you'll be that across all different styles.
So you are a omni channel brand. You guys are on marketplaces, retail. Um, you have your own website. You guys are on quick commerce as well. So you guys are on quick commerce, right?
A little bit, yeah. We don't see quick commerce and apparel growing that much yet, but
Yeah, yeah,
M Now, which is
yeah.
the Mintra's quick commerce, we've seen very good results over there.
Right. So how does that work for you? Where does actual growth come from, or which channel actually works the best for you?
I think brands are built through the flywheel of everything. While meta and digital currently are the megaphones, we see
Hmm.
retail being the retail AOV, and the stickiness and brand experience is far better at a store level. And we see that right now we're only a 5 year business. In the next 5 years, we're planning to double down on our retail expansion, and we have 15 stores currently. We feel like we can get to 100 plus stores. Uh, And so we feel like it's going to be truly an omni-channel experience, each one
Mm-hmm.
balancing and feeding off of the other. What we feel is that like local clusters. So, for example, our top 8 cities, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, we can definitely double down in these markets, and that will be
Hmm.
able to secure a better market share in these current markets. And that helps your economics in your business work much better.
So marketplaces, so there's always this conversation. Marketplaces help scale quickly, and but they also reduce the differentiation because you're one of the brand in many. So because consumers start comparing products mostly on, or sometimes it's discount driven and convenience
We
as well.
actually offer the same price, and that's been very important, is to have price parity or price consistency across all channels. And
Hmm.
so therefore then the marketplace is not a liquidation channel for us. It is
Hmm.
also another channel where a different younger consumer may be on it, because it's a convenient place for him to shop while he's shopping other brands as well.
Hmm. So does brand loyalty build on marketplaces?
I would say that brands are echoed on marketplaces because it becomes a strong area where if someone is choosing to buy you on a
Hmm.
marketplace, that means you've
Hmm.
won over all the other brands as well. It's like if you go to a mall and you're shopping, which store would you go to? And if you eventually make a purchase at the Pan project, that means that across your cluster, right? Like typically the men's zone will have all the top competitors there and you shop there. It's similar in a marketplace. The fact that we're growing rapidly and actually seeing incremental growth and profitability out of marketplaces means that all of the work that we've done on our digital brand and through Meta is now converting on the marketplaces, where people are choosing to buy the Pan project over other legacy brands.
Mhm. So you guys entered offline retail last year, right? So how does that changed for the PAN project? Has it changed conversion, consumer trust? What do you see? Then what you learned about the difference between how consumers behave online versus how they behave on stores?
So, in terms of the demographics, firstly, we've been able to acquire a little bit of an older audience as well offline, who's used to
Mm-hmm.
shopping in person and used to touch and feel the product. In terms
Mm-hmm.
of like AOV and spending power, we feel like offline people are willing to spend 5,000 rupees compared to say spending 2,500 rupees online. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and in terms of like the insights, we feel like as you open more stores, the city
Mm-hmm.
itself gets more trust and your marketing dollars improve, because it becomes one more point for that customer to experience and hear about your brand. So, therefore, the
Mm-hmm.
brand trust, which is one of the most important factors, as well as the organic search volume in those cities increases.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of cities have worked well for you? Which kind of cities?
I think like Hyderabad has been a fantastic city for us because it's
Mm-hmm.
inherently a tech city and has formals as a customer base. I think
Mm-hmm.
Bangalore, Bombay, and surprisingly, even tier two cities like Indore, Kochi have done very well for us because we've been a first player in those cities in these malls. So we feel like you can have a larger store at these places and you can really
Mm-hmm.
drive loyalty because the consumers there feel like they've discovered Pan Project.
Right, right. Interesting to know this. So, fashion discovery today is increasingly creator driven also. How important are influencers or
I think
styling creators?
influencer
And
marketing has been one of our best brand unlocks as well. And I think that like over the last 5 years, there've become so many new menswear creators, and a lot of men have joined as content people, even though a lot of them are Gen Z or like young millennials. Today, their voice matters in terms of like consuming consumption patterns. And so I think that we've seen a huge surge in organic traffic as well by having
Mm.
creator led ads being made. And that's really helped us unlock a new audience.
So there has been a conversation that fashion customer acquisition costs have become extremely expensive. So today, how do you think about building sustainable brand recall beyond paid ads? And honestly, the question is: does paid ads performance marketing work for you? Because like this question has been spoken about a lot.
So I think that you have to follow up performance marketing with long term brand spend. And performance marketing is that marketing echo or that funnel which then amplifies that singular message that you're trying to recall with the customer. Performance marketing is more of a conversion tool, and brand marketing and influencer marketing is more of an awareness tool. So
Hmm.
I would say is that today, for Pan Project, historically, 80% of our ad spend was on performance marketing and on Meta, and maybe 20% or less was on Google. Today, we see a lot more of that brand spend being done through influencer campaigns, offline
Hmm.
activation, choosing better facades of our stores and having brand experiences, and then that funneling into our performance channels. So I would say is that while CPMs are rising, the way to be able to uh, break that clutter is through community building and unlocking new audiences through influencers.
Okay. So you had Rishabh Pant as a celebrity ambassador and you had that early on. How did that go?
So Rishabh Pant was a very interesting brand play that we did back in 2021-22. At this point, Rishabh was at the peak of his career and he represented the growing Indian population as well. The success of it was that as a young brand, many eyeballs and audiences were unlocked. And we had limited it to the first year as well, because for us, our consumer cared more for his colleague or his boss as his aspiration and not just any celebrity led ambassador.
Hmm. Got it. So you have built the company for a few years before, raising any capital. So what changed? What was the right moment to bring external investors into the business? Because you did have backing of the legacy brands that you have. Like,
Yeah. So my brother and I had actually bootstrapped the business and stepped away from our family business when we put in the capital ourselves.
hmm,
And we had always thought of running this business as an IPOable, professionally run business because we wanted to really unlock value both for the business and for ourselves as well as young entrepreneurs. We wanted to
hmm,
be able to do this on our own money, because until we had proven ourselves, taking money from someone else would not be right. And after we had reached our first crores, we were able to know
hmm.
and go out there to raise money after having found PMS. And today, while we're growing the business and have crossed over 100 crores in revenue, we know that this business is scalable to over 1,000 crores with the right capital that can amplify and be able to
Hmm.
speed up the journey.
So what actually changed in your thought process and how will you scale? How does that escalate your growth? Do you have to prove numbers now that your growth timelines has it shrunk now? Like you were giving X number of years earlier, and now because you have capital, do you feel that pressure?
No, I think it's very important for a founder to find the right investor who believes in your long term vision, because
Mm-hmm.
getting capital is one thing, but being able to sustain your business and get towards profitability and being able to, once you list in the public market as well, to have at least a long horizon is equally important. We wanted to build this business for the long term because we feel like this was a business that could be a cash cow. After it achieved scale at 1,000 crores, it could easily have over 100 crores of profit. And this was always our vision. So in a decade, to be able to build over 1,000 crore company, uh, and fortunately, we've been able to find that success in 5 years to be able to scale up. And now
Mm-hmm.
it's all about year on year doubling revenue.
So how do you scale responsibility without diluting the original proposition?
So it's important to have a clear vision, and it's important to also say no. I think most founders are chasing either money or outcomes, but I think
Hmm.
inputs are equally important. And to be able to
Hmm.
know that the inputs that you're putting into your business, be it your store experience or be it your product quality, those do not deteriorate. And so eventually you need to realize is that your customers have to keep coming back to you, and that's what
Hmm.
will keep your business sustainable. So that is something that we're consciously creating at the Pan project. And that's why we have taken as long as we have to be able to achieve the scale, because we know that things won't break and things can continue growing at this pace sustainably.
So from outside, fashion conversations focus heavily on revenue growth, or even any D2C brand growth works on revenue growth. But internally, what metrics matter to you most today? Like, is it repeat rate, contribution margin, or returns? Whatever, what it is that what is the metric that you're chasing?
So we look at two metrics over here. One of them is
Hmm.
LTV, which is the lifetime value that you can unlock of a customer. And the second
Hmm.
one that we look at is your customer acquisition cost. And if you're able to get enough of a customer base that is repeating with you and therefore spending north of 8,000, 10,000, like order size on your ticket size on your platform, then you
Hmm.
know that you're going to build a profitable, sustainable business.
Hmm.
So eventually, that profitability is something that is an equation of customer acquisition cost to LTV.
So I want to understand what investors believed in Trouser First brand. What made them to have a trust on this and build on this?
So I think we chose Sorin Investments, which is led by Sanjay Nair and Falguni Nair, the founders of Nika. So
Hmm.
the reason we chose Sorin Investments, which is the Sanjay Nair and Falguni Nair's fund as well, is
Hmm.
because we knew that they knew how to build a profitable, scalable business. And they
Hmm.
understood that being a category leader is very
Hmm.
important. Nika was one of the first people who came in with beauty and kind of became a conglomerate and became a
Hmm.
unicorn as well. So
Right.
similarly, they see the Pan project as a cash flow business and an operating business that can grow year on year sustainability. And I think that's the kind of investors that we've had the fortune of working with and that we've been able to
Hmm.
choose as partners in our business.
That's good. That's good. And you come from a textile and manufacturing ecosystem. What advantages did that generally give you on building the brand, and where did the legacy thinking become a limiting while trying to build a modern consumer brand?
So I think the leverage that we've had the most have been knowledge and trust.
Hmm.
In the initial years, for us to be able to go and have the supply chain that we have uh, has been because we have a legacy and we know how this business works. So we've been respectful of our suppliers and being able to
Hmm.
give them projections, inventory management, and grown with those same people year on year. And I think that
Hmm.
is something that the industry values. And this is how
Hmm.
we've been able to leverage from our legacy business because we've seen it over the last 50 years.
Hmm.
Today, if any supplier is going to work with you, they don't want you to be in business 1 year with like huge orders and then out of business the next, right? They want to know that for like the next decade or so, they can continuously work with you. And this has been
Hmm.
one of our biggest learnings as well as just the inherent knowledge we have in how to launch a product and choosing which products to launch. What we've learned as well as a brand has been actually the marketing muscle.
So, is India becoming more style conscious or is becoming more comfort conscious? And if you look at Indian male consumers today, what's changing faster for them? Aspiration, willingness to spend, or comfort expectations?
I always say this line: style be hai, comfort be. I don't think it has to be a choice. Today, the
Hmm.
customer is seeing how that same product is able to give him multiple functions. And
Hmm.
earlier, it used to be where he had to choose style or comfort.
Hmm.
Fortunately, now there's enough innovation on product where he can have them both. So, this is why we as a brand exist, where we're able to find the right balance between being fashion conscious as well as being comfort first. And I would say that our consumer will always still choose comfort first, but today
Hmm.
comfort doesn't have to be boring or it doesn't have to be unstylish. Comfort can be stylish.
And throughout the journey, then any assumptions that turned out completely wrong?
I mean, we've made certain bets along the way, but I would say that maybe realizing that India is a much larger market. And so when we moved from custom made to ready to wear, we really unlocked a huge audience. So there's a
Hmm.
huge audience that sits, and here GST benefits really helped us. When the GST went, it used to be goods at 2,500 used to be at 12%, and then they moved to 5%. And that was a huge unlock for us.
Okay. And what does unlock in the next phase of growth? What unlocks the next phase of growth for you? What do you
I would
think
say
will
that
define the next phase?
building through retail and omni-channel, and
Hmm.
saying that the Indian man is everywhere. And so, therefore, if we are where he is, I mean, today,
Hmm.
Lenskart, Rare Rabbit, so many coffee brands are have so many multiple outlets. So I would say that, like, as Pan Project expands into retail, we'll be able to harvest our digital consumer who's being aware of us and then convert him offline as well.
And where does global expansion comes in the picture? Is there in your
I think
cards
in
or
today's time, everyone is going local, similar to local samosa, and that would be a good place to understand our consumer as well. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah,
And what has actually been harder than you expected in building this business, not operationally but emotionally or mentally?
I think as an entrepreneur, you're quite resilient. I would say
Hmm.
the hard part is juggling all the balls at once. And
Hmm.
the good part about that journey is to be able to find people who believe in you, both from our teams. So we've had a really strong team that we built out. Having a co-founder is quite important so that you can balance out the responsibilities, and having a
Hmm.
good set of investors who give you enough bandwidth and resources to be able to grow your business. The easy part has been able to get customers who've given us customer love, because we've given them good product.
And how does sibling relationship work in professional structure? How does that work?
So it's a lot of fun, and at the same time, there's no one like your sibling who understands you better.
Hmm.
And at the same time, you may have disagreements, but you know that you're still solving for the same thing. So it's often
Hmm.
then just about a different style. And here, our teams have been very effective in knowing about the big picture or the small picture. And both Dhruv and I also juggle between playing good cop and bad cop. And it's often within the same teams to know which role and which hat to pair. So as long as the vision is aligned, then no matter if they're your sibling or your co-founder, eventually everyone in your team kind of operates as a close-knit family, because this is where you're spending the most amount of time. Uh,
Hmm.
and so it's fun to be able to do it with your brother.
Yeah, amazing. I move on to the next section. It will be very quick answers that what I expect. Okay, so this one section is called as founder cheat sheet. So what did building teach you? Basically, it means building a fit-led menswear wear taught you what about Indian male consumers that you didn't understand before.
That comfort is the most important factor, and you need to be comfortable with yourself if you are able to deliver comfort across. So as a fast-paced growing startup, it's very important to get comfortable with change.
What's one thing about fashion business that looks glamorous from outside but is operationally brutal underneath, especially in a category dealing with ready to wear, fit, customized fit?
Everyone glamorizes retail and the stores until you realize that it's one of the hardest segments to be able to keep consistent, because it's one of the areas where a lot of human touch point is there, and the customer experience is very physical and hands-on. So we would be able to hire someone really experienced in retail, and that's been able to help us scale up. But I would say that, like, it's always the founder and the fashionista's dream to have your own store and your own label, but that's one of the hardest parts of the business to then be able to scale up.
What did scaling customization teach you about the trade off between individuality and operational efficiency?
Consumer insights are extremely valuable, and knowing your audience
Mhm.
allows you to have scale. So if you don't know your audience, then you're just throwing arrows in the dark. But through customization, we were really able to get to know our audience, and then we were able to scale that up.
What did offline retail teach you that online data could never?
Dwell time. So the ability for your customer to want to engage on your products and spend 25 to 30 minutes hanging out with your brand in your store. Online, we're used to having multiple tabs open and juggling from tab to tab or to marketplace. But the nature of offline is that you've chosen to go to a store for a brand experience. And if you can actually slow down the journey and experience the brand, the customer will actually purchase more.
And what's one assumption you had about menswear or consumer behavior that turned out completely wrong?
Men may seem like they don't care about fashion, but they care for comfort and through this fit fabric and functionality. So it's just a different kind of fashion that they care for, which is
Okay.
functional.
So next segment is called Founder 101. If someone wants to build a fashion brand today, what should they understand first before entering the category?
I will say that it is the rag trade, and you should have a strong supply chain and build relationships with your suppliers if you want to be in the fashion industry, because they are the ones that are going to help you scale up.
How should founders think about choosing between trend led categories, utility led categories, and repeat purchase categories?
So fashion or chasing trends is like options trading, which is quite risky, but it can be quite profitable. And we've seen it with the likes of Zara and fast fashion brand. But repeat and is something that's a long-term play. So if you want to last out and have an IPOable story or win in the long term, it's like investing in equities or in longer term play. It will compound, and so therefore repeat customers compound. So it's a choice as an investor or a founder as to which business you want to be in and where you can sleep at night. Keep it tight, because inventory is cash flow, and if you're stuck with aging inventory, then you're stuck with cash.
At what stage should founders think about offline retail?
After they've found strong product market fit and they know that their offline retail can be profitable.
When should founders raise capital in fashion and when should they avoid it?
After they're willing to put down their own money and they found product market fit, in fashion, you can easily find ways to test your product or your idea. And until you're willing to take the responsibility to pay back someone's capital, you shouldn't take money from them.
Thank you so much, Udit, for taking your time out for this conversation. I loved how candid you were throughout the process and throughout the whole conversation. I appreciate what you guys, what Dhruv and you are building in the space for men and not just fancy products, but functional products. So there are a lot of things that goes behind running such a fashion business. Kudos to you both. And thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation and look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Thank you for listening to Building Actually with Abhishansa. I'll see you in the next episode.